This is the third and last video on applique. This video is made specifically for the Two Rivers Quilt Guild of the Easton Area Public Library. So if you found this on YouTube, just know that I will be referring to things that are specific to that group. And if that's not what you're looking for, look for a different video. This third video is going to be on making narrow strips in an applique. So it could be used, they mostly are used for stems. They might be used for, if you're putting a fence on your applique, you might use them for those lines, those boards of a fence. Anytime that you want a very thin line. In fact, I think up behind me, there's the top of this teapot has applique. These stems are appliqued. This little thing across the top of the chimney. Now these are straight lines and they're pretty easy to do. But what I'm going to show you today are curvy lines that you can use for stems or waves or whatever. And they're done, excuse me, a little differently from all of the other applique techniques. So I just want to talk to you. I know we've been through this with a lot of the group, but not everyone. Fabric comes on a bolt, and it's generally 42 inches wide if it's made in America or in the US. Or manufactured for the US in another country. So on a bolt, you've got yards and yards. This is a half yard. I've cut a bit out, but this is a half yard of fabric. And the edges are called selvages. People think salvage, but it's selvage with an E. They're selvages, and they are finished. Sometimes they're white, and they've got dots of the color in the fabric or the name of the manufacturer. This is a batik and they don't do that. So, and on the bolt, it's folded in half. That's why you get that nasty tight fold that you have to fight to get rid of if you're using the fabric. So when it's made along the line parallel to the selvages. That's how it's woven. And so that line that runs parallel to the selvages is very firm. If you pull it this way, that's between the selvages, parallel to them, it barely gives at all. It gives a little bit more if you pull it from selvage to selvage, okay? It has a little more give in it, a little stretchier. So this is called straight of grain, and that's the firmest. This is called cross grain, and that gives a little. But if you go diagonally, so I'm going to go from this corner, not down, not over, but diagonally down, watch this pull. Has a lot of give, okay? So when I tell you to cut a strip diagonally, it sort of wastes fabric. And it doesn't have to be 45 degrees, it can be a little bit off. But what you're doing is you're not going straight of grain or cross grain, you're going diagonally. And that will give you a piece of fabric that will stretch. So this little tiny piece is cut diagonally. And you'll see how much give it has. It's very much easier to work with if I'm making a curved stem. Now, if I'm making like the top of that teacup or the chimney top, I want a nice sturdy piece to hold the straight line. So I will do straight of grain or even cross grain. So now I'm making a stem. And the first thing that I do is I cut the width of my strip to be 4 times the width of the piece I'm making. So I believe this is 1 inch wide. Let me check that. Yes, this is 1 inch wide to make a 1/4 inch wide stem. And I'm going to start by pressing it directly in half. Just pressing it in half. Okay, so now it's folded in half with the right side out, like this. That's what this is here. Now, I don't know, it's so pale, but what I've done is I have drawn a line with my little blue pen, and I'm gonna see if I have something bolder, and not so much. But I've drawn a curved line where I am choosing to attach this. I don't know if you get really close in. Can you see this line? It's going just like this, right along here. That is where I want the edge of my stem to be. So, as we did in part 1 video, I'm going to make my tiny blind stitches to attach this fold, the fold, not either of the raw edges, the fold along that line. So I see that it's coming back a little bit. So I'm going to go down in right next to my piece, and then I'm going to come up on the line and catch and open this up so I can see the fold, and I'm going to catch the fold in my stitch. And I'm still coming back around that curve. So I'm going to go down in where I came out, right next to that spot. And you see, I'm not following the fabric. I'm following my little line where I want the stem to go. And then I'm pulling the stem over to it and coming back up into that fold. It's okay, take a couple of threads in there of that fold. And you can see that this is bulking up a little. It's going to make a little bit of extra fabric here. That's okay. And I'm going to go all the way down. I'm going to come over to here, bring it here, and then I'm going to bend it back around here until I have this side, the fold side, 100% stitched the whole length of my stem. Now, I'm going to have a big chunk here. Nice big chunk. So I don't want that. I don't want all this inside my stem. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to do the part that I've already sewed down. In fact, I think I'll knot that so it's not coming loose and you can really see it. So this is sewed down to here. Put a little knot in that for you. And attach that into place. You can see my tiny little stitches. They don't have to be that small. The smaller they are, the smoother your piece will be. Depends on how much you care about this little stem and how perfect you need it to be. Knot that off. And cut this off. So now I'm going to fold back here, and I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut this piece down to the width I want my stem to be. I'm going to cut it down to about 1/4 inch, even less. And then I'm going to fold this over the outside. This is the outside of the stem. This is what's going to show. I'm going to fold it over into my stitching line and bring it over like this. Fold this over and bring it over. And you can see I'm getting this nice little narrow stem. And I've started to do that here. So you can see that I've cut this in, cut this about 1/4 inch from my stitch line, folded this over, and I'll be stitching that down. This part is already stitched. So there are 2 layers of fabric under this, which gives your stem a little heft, which is a nice look on your quilt. Now, not everybody likes to do it this way. Some people like to make bias strips. They'd like to make a 1/4 inch bias strip, and there are little gadgets you can use to make those, and you cut the fabric to this width, and then you pull it through. I don't have so much success with that as I do with this. I feel as if I have more control here, but there's nothing wrong with using a bias strip maker, or if you're good at just folding to get something this small, fold the fabric this way, fold it that way, and get your strip, that's perfectly fine. You'll still sew it down with either the blind stitch or the machine stitch. If you are doing fused applique, you don't have to go through this. You just fuse it on and you machine stitch, either your blanket stitch or your straight stitch, and you will get that little bit of frayed edge along the stem, which is a natural look and wouldn't be bad. But this is the best way to get a really perfect curved stem in your piece. One thing I want to warn you about, if you're a beginner with applique, I recommend against making very sharp points on the end of things. So for instance, a leaf that looks more like a blade of grass width, very hard to get the point on the end. And don't make a barracuda fish. Make a fish with kind of a rounded face, just a little point like the bottom of a heart, let's say, or rounded. So the hardest thing is to get points that are very sharp and look like points and not schmutzes at the ends of your leaves or the ends of wherever you're making them, the bottom of your hearts. You don't want to make a real modern heart with that long look. You want to make a more rounded heart if you're a beginner. Obviously, if you've done this a lot, anything goes. So that is the last of these videos, and I will try to put links with them to other people more professional than I who teach these same skills down below the videos. Good luck, have fun.